Hello and welcome to Mums at the Table. My name is Rachel and joining me today are friends and colleagues, Shona, Mary Ellen, and Rachel. How are you ladies doing today?
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah?
And you?
I'm doing really well, actually. Thanks for asking.
That's good.
Yeah. You know, on today's show, we're going to be asking all of the big questions that are on every mom's mind. Am I spending enough time with my kids? Are they learning to share and be a good human being? Am I healthy? And when is the right time to let them go? And to start off, I want you to imagine living in a tiny house of 25 square meters with 2 adults and 2 kids under 4. I struggle with my 1 kid, but Sarah Wooden and her family are living this experience. Melody, our editor of Mums at the Table magazine, recently visited them and wrote an article about it in this month's Mums at the Table magazine. So Mary Ellen, I know you're into this kind of thing. Do you think this family is surviving or are they actually thriving?
I think they're thriving. Well, Sarah herself said that she was thriving. She was saying how she no longer has the stress of walking into a room and thinking, oh my goodness, I have to clean all of this later, and, you know, sort of just sitting in front of the TV trying to forget all of the stress of housework, because now she has 25 square feet as opposed to 200, which is like the average house. And she says that, yeah, her and her husband spend so much more time with their kids now and that they have a lot more quality time together. So, hey, I'm all for it. It sounds great. But
I know for some moms, it might be not necessarily a dream, but kind of like being more like being in the space with their kids more might be a bit frightening for them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we almost lived her story in a way, because Chris and I, when we first sort of got married, bought a house. We had this tiny, tiny house. It was just the 2 of us. There was 3 rooms, a kitchen, but no living space.
Oh, wow.
So you could stand in one point of the house and literally see every section of the house. Like, it was so tiny. And then we had our first child, and that was fine. And cleaning up is a breeze with a tiny house. It's fantastic. What she says in the article is true. Then we had a second, and we hadn't thought about the third, but the third came along and we're like, this is not working.
Really?
We need more space. I was dying. It was too cramped, too much stuff, because you collect stuff with kids. They come with stuff.
Well, that's one of the things, is that she was kind of decluttering. Like, when you looked at her house, I watched a video of the tour of the house, and like the husband's wardrobe fit underneath the stairway. The kids only had like a toy or 2.
It scared me watching that video. I was thinking of, you know, like, I'm not a minimalist by any stretch of the imagination. I like my stuff. And, you know, that's me. But I just, I struggled with it, because I thought, yes, okay, you have all this extra time and you have more time with the kids and the husband. But what happens if you don't get on that well together? Well, my boys don't get on well together.
Okay.
We've actually put them on separate floors to eliminate the arguing and the fighting. So what happens when you're in a place where you are so tightly compacted and you're not getting on?
Well, you learn a lot of lessons real quick.
Forgiveness and patience and all that stuff. But for me, it wasn't like, I completely understand the fact that you want to have space. I know in my house, I love my own space in my room. It's how I survive. But it was like the lack of things that sort of really spoke to me, because I was thinking, well, as a Christian, like, the Bible in a lot of places says, you know, your priority shouldn't be material things. It should be your heaven, like your relationship with God, your relationship with others. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that, okay, Shona, maybe you don't want to downsize, but do you feel like you have too much stuff, things that distract you?
No, I quite frequently go through our stuff, and our kids have learnt to get rid of stuff they're not using and donate it to op shops or to other people or whatever. Joshua just did it the other day and cleaned out his wardrobes and got everything sorted. So I think there is, you can be environmentally conscious, or, you know, conscious of your environment without having to be a minimalist. The Bible also says it's the love of money, not the not necessarily all the stuff that you have.
It's a hard problem.
It kind of is like that mindset around stuff, you know? Like, for some people, the stuff may be a distraction. They may just be trying to accumulate more and more stuff. But I like this idea as I think about the amount of laundry that I have to do and all the cleaning. Like, this idea of being able to clean your entire house in a few hours is appealing.
In a small house, it's a dream. And we do have a bigger house now to accommodate more kids, but it's a lot harder, and it's more stressful time. So I said to Chris the other day, I'm like, should we go to a smaller house and sort of maybe more land or something and do it that way and have more space that way? And he's like, I don't think so. So it's not happening anytime soon for us.
So what about just changing your thought process, though, and not worrying so much about the cleaning and having everything tidy and just spend more time?
That's not an issue for me. It's an issue for him, because he really likes things organised and clean, and that's fine. But we're really opposite in that way. His suggestion was, how about I just keep the house, but cut out all the stuff we've got in it.
Well, you know what? This may have piqued some people's curiosity. I have questions, frankly, about intimacy, how that works. But if this has piqued your curiosity about this minimalistic lifestyle and you want to know more about how this might work for your family, visit our website using the details on your screen to get a free printable checklist with tips for simple living. So whether it's a matter of space or simply brotherly and sisterly love, it's almost like a childhood rite of passage to share a room with your sibling, right? Rachel, I love to hear your thoughts on this because I think you have a really interesting philosophy about siblings sharing rooms.
Well, yeah, I guess growing up, I didn't really have a room to myself. I was always sharing with my older sister or my younger sister, and my brother always had his own room. And they sort of at times had their own room, but I really didn't. And so I always felt a bit bitter about that. So with my kids, I've got 3 girls. What I've decided, and 2 of them were sharing a room from 6 months onwards. Like we had that tiny house I was talking about earlier. So now what I do is a round robin thing. So there's 3 girls and they get their own room every 3 years, basically. So they share for 2 years and then they get their own. And I know they're still young, but I want them to have an opportunity to learn to live with someone else, live with their differences and learn to tolerate them. To me, that's a really important thing, and this is one way of doing it. But I also have a daughter who doesn't like to be alone, and I want her to have an opportunity to be on her own to see how that goes. Like, I don't force them. If they change their mind after a few weeks, we revert back, that's fine. But I like them to have a go at both.
This is such a smart idea. I remember when you told it to me before, it sounded like you were a parenting expert with the round robin idea.
Well,
and
we're
everything.
literally going through this at the moment, and my daughter who's on her own is like, Mum, I just hate being on my own. She goes to bed in her sister's bed next door, and then we transfer her back to her own bed.
So how old is she?
She's 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but she's a real people person.
Yeah.
She loves that. So, yeah, we're going to switch them back. But, yeah, that's fine. Like, at least she's had a go.
I think it's easy to think about some of the pros of, you know, having siblings living together, but what are some of the cons you might think of? Because many parents are going through this issue. They may not have the tiny house issue.
There's fighting. There's the mess.
Well, there's one being messy and one being really clean.
Clean,
that was-
yes.
touching
yes,
the other one's
yes.
stuff.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was
there's the giggling and the laughing when they won't go to sleep and the bouncing on the beds and breaking the bed.
So I take it your kids shared rooms.
They did for a little while, probably until they were sort of about 7-ish, about when your daughter was, so about then we separated them because it was much, much easier. And also one of my children went onto an oxygen machine, so the noise was too great for the other one,
So what do you think about siblings of like a boy and a girl, like rooming together? What are your thoughts on it?
I have no problem with it. At some point, they're probably going to want their own privacy, but while they're young, like I personally have no problem with it. I would do it if I had a boy. I've got friends who have had their boys and girls share.
it
you learn to
depends
live
on
with
the
each other.
kids.
Yeah, it depends on the family. Like my sister has 2 girls and she wouldn't put them in a room together at all. She just doesn't want to unleash one on the other. And you've got to do what works for your family.
Right, yeah. And I know we spent a lot of time going up and down the stairs to the boys going, get into bed, go to sleep, stop laughing. You'd get downstairs and you'd hear them running up and down the corridor after each other. In the end, it was easier to put them in separate bedrooms.
But I think those are some of the best memories that you have.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember a memory that I have when I was rooming with my sister, because we used to get up to all kinds of mischief. I was a really clean person, she was really messy, so we used to fight a lot about that. But I distinctly remember one night, I would never have done this if I was in my own room, but we snuck out into the kitchen and we got into the pantry and there was this huge jar. My mum kept in like a child safety jar of sugar. So it was like this difficult lock, you kind of had to undo it, but I knew how. And so I went into the room and me and my sister stayed up all night and we ate the entire jar of sugar. It was amazing. It was amazing.
The whole jar of sugar?
Well, I don't know about the whole jar, but it was a substantial amount.
As far as you could get through before you got sick.
Pretty much.
Well, that's one of the downsides is like you're putting 2 minds together
Exactly.
to start to, you know,
Yep.
do things
There's
against
a strategy in separating.
Yeah. Well, you know, we can all learn a few lessons about living in harmony, and it probably starts at home at a young age. But now I'm curious to see what Gia and Olive are whipping up in the kitchen, so we're off to learn how to make some chicken seasoning.
Okay, so we are making. No, she's already started. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We can tell you what's in it. Wait, just wait, okay? I know you're in a hurry. What are we making? Do you remember? It's chick-it salt. Chick-it salt. So it's not chicken salt. It's like chicken salt. We are going to teach you how to make a seasoning that you can keep in your cupboard. That's going to be healthy for your kids, and you get some good B12 from it as well. And I like to keep it to put on my potato chips, like my microwave chips, which you'll find on our website. Olive Litz has already started. She's put 1 tablespoon of the Himalayan salt in there already, and she's put, well, half a teaspoon of the Italian herbs. So that's what she's put in there so far. So with this recipe, we need 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder. So can you mix it while I put them through? Because we need to mix them through really well. And in here, I've got, if you can see there, half a teaspoon of each sage and turmeric. This recipe comes from a lady called Gynaecological. You can't find her recipes online. I've tried. She runs she helped start CHIP program in Australia, which is a great program to reverse heart disease and diabetes, or trying to reverse diabetes and also help people lose weight. This is parsley, 1 tablespoon of parsley.
Did you sting your eyes?
No, I didn't. That was delicious. And this is a half a cup of nutritional yeast flakes. And I remember we've talked about this before. Nutritional yeast flakes are full of B vitamins, and they make things taste a little cheesy and just give flavouring. Okay, and then you got to mix it through really well. I like collecting these jars, these little jars that when we're finished, like herbs of some sort, and I just wash them out, and then I use this here to put some in there. Let's mix it, mix it, mix it, mix it, mix it. This will make about 2 or 3 of these jars. We use this to put it in there. Oh, we're making a mess because we love making a mess, don't we? And we fill up these little jars. And there you have it. You've got your chicken seasoning, which is not chicken seasoning, chick-it seasoning. And we will use this for everything in our house whenever we want some seasoning, because it's a healthy option. There you go, and it's your own. You should try this on chips, or we're gonna make some other different chips today for the show. Enjoy using it on everything. Get your B vitamins in you.
Are you planning to try that anytime soon?
I am. Yeah, it looked interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have a crack at that.
It seems like it wouldn't be one of the harder recipes she did. It'd be,
No.
yeah, entry-level recipe. Well, to sleep over or not to sleep over, that's the questions that many families battle. With pressure from families and friends, and many parents end up caving in. But not Georgie, who wrote Why I Say No to Sleepovers Before 10 in a Kid Spot article. Shona, I want to know, because you have this whole thing about overprotective parents.
Really?
I know you, girl. I know you. Do you think that 10 is being overprotective, saying that you won't let your kids sleep over until that age?
Well, my kids slept over younger than 10, but
With
I had
family or with friends or with...
friends. I had very, very good friends that my kids slept over with, and I didn't have a problem with it. We did a lot of praying. But yeah,
Praying
they
for
were
the parents.
Yeah, praying for the parents because they took both kids. But yeah, no. Look, and again, I think it comes down to you as parents, and I think it comes down to the kids, because some kids wouldn't cope with it. I mean, how would your 7-year-old cope with it, or how would you cope with it?
Well, see, a sleepover she'd cope with because she likes people, and you're right next to them. Like, this would be her environment.
Yeah.
But as a parent, I'm not comfortable yet with that. Like, my eldest is 9. I think they've had 1 sleepover at a very close friend's house, but it's not something, and it's not a habit that I'm getting into just yet. And I wouldn't put an age on it. I would watch my kids. I want to know that they're comfortable speaking up if something's wrong, if they're cold, if they want water. You know, I don't want them to sort of just be quiet. I want to know that they have the confidence to sort of take care of themselves a little bit before they go and do that on a more regular basis. And it's really important for me to know the parents.
And how do your friends react? Because I would have imagined your kids have gotten invited over to sleepovers. How do they react if you say no to the sleepovers?
At the moment, I've got a circle of friends, and I haven't had parents outside that circle of sort of close friends ask yet, but they really respect me, and I think that's where I really felt angry for the lady in the article. She said she'd had mums question her decision, and in a negative way, and I thought, hang on, our job as parents is not to make someone feel shame or bad for the decision they're making. They're walking the parenting journey that they're comfortable with, and they shouldn't be degraded for that. So as parents, why are we not going, okay, you know what? That's where they stand on it. Let me support them in their parenting journey.
So you've had a discussion with your friends,
Yep.
and you've said, don't ask my kids
I haven't
to come
said
over.
don't ask.
But maybe
But
they
I've
know
just
by
said
now.
it's not something I'm comfortable with as yet. Yeah.
Right.
My mum was the same. She never let me have a sleepover. I think the first sleepover I had, I was about 16. And that's pretty much the only sleepover I've ever had. And I think, okay, the question's going to come up, like stranger danger. I know the statistics show that the majority of people that do take advantage of children are people that you know. So where do you sort of stand on that, ladies?
Well, for me, and we spoke about this earlier, you have to have that conversation about calling your body parts the real things, and getting your kids confident enough to be able to say to you, so-and-so did such and such, or I felt uncomfortable about this, or, you know, they need to be able to feel trustworthy and comfortable with me to be able to tell me what's gone on. And we continually had those conversations.
So communication is more important than like helicopter protection.
Yeah, oh yeah, baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I want to pose like another question, and thinking about it from the perspective of our homes, how can we make our homes kind of seem like a safe space or a place where kids can come to, and parents, we can communicate that to parents that it's a safe place for kids to come to?
Well, I was going to say, with my sister, you know, I've said to her, like, if her kids wanted to come over, they could. And I've also said to her, like, if you're not comfortable, you can come over and come to the sleepover as well. And I know it sounds silly, but if my kids got invited to somewhere I didn't know, I would also say, well, I would come with them. And I know that would put other parents off. I know it would. But I'm no. Until I feel they're comfortable to speak up for themselves. But yeah, I would make that offer. I would make sure that anyone who was coming over would be as comfortable as they possibly could be.
Well, you know what? We all have to let go of our kids at some age, but it's up to every family to decide when that is. And you know what? I got nothing but respect for that. These days, it seems as though everyone is talking about gut health. So join us as we learn more about what it means and how we can keep our insides healthy.
Welcome back. We have Trish here from Sanitarium, our dietitian, nutritionist, and she's here to talk about our gut health, our gut flora, microbiome. I don't even know what that means exactly, but you are going to tell us all about it, aren't you?
Right. Well,
welcome, by the way.
Thank you. Great to be here. Well, the microbiome, I mean, every time it seems you pick up a magazine, someone's talking about the gut and a healthy gut and the microbiome. And the microbiome is a really hot area of research. And what it actually means is it's the bacteria that live mostly in our gut, but in other parts of our body, such as on our skin and in our mouth. But most of the bacteria that live in our on our bodies are in our gut. And the genes that also make up the bacteria, those two together are what we call the microbiome.
Okay.
And it's such a significant part of our body, up to 2 kilos of weight.
Wow,
it
2
makes up the
kilos.
microbiome and the bacteria. That's right, yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
it's actually a really important part of our body.
Yeah, so why is it so important to take care of it? What, you know?
Yeah, well, as I said, it's one of the most hottest research areas, and there's lots of new information coming out all the time. But it seems that ensuring our microbiome is healthy is really important for basically ensuring the rest of our body is healthy. So our microbiome talks to our immune system, it talks to our brain. It may even be associated with our body weight and keeping a healthy body weight, as well as other diseases like diabetes and cancers. Plus, of course, keeping the gut healthy is important for good digestion as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it does play a big role, being 2 kilos worth of bacteria.
Amazing,
You don't even
isn't
know
it?
that. I know, you don't even think they weigh anything. I didn't know they weigh anything, but that's amazing. But how do we look after our gut? How do we keep it healthy, keep this microbiome alive?
Yeah, well, it's really important to think of lifestyle overall. So having a healthy lifestyle, including exercising, caring and keeping stress under control, not smoking are all really important, but really diet has a significant, unsurprisingly...
Feeding, how you feed it.
Yeah, that's right. So there's 2 different ways from a diet perspective you can keep your microbiome healthy. And the first way is feeding it, basically feeding it with good foods, and they are healthy plant foods that are high in fibre.
Okay.
Because the bacteria that live in our gut actually feed off the fibre in
Okay,
our
so
food.
fiber's what? Okay, so think
Absolutely.
fibre. Okay, so think fibre.
Yeah, and it's important to get fibre from a variety of foods because there are different types of fibre. So some of the most important or best sources of fibre are your whole grains.
Okay.
So all whole grains and a variety of whole grains are good. That not only do they keep the food moving through, but they can actually feed the bacteria as well. Legumes, we should all love legumes and trying to get more legumes in our diet.
So beans, chickpeas, lentils, all that is your legumes. Yep.
Dried or canned, whatever is the most convenient for you, are really important. fruits and vegetables, and I've got some bananas there, and slightly underripe bananas are actually a lot higher in fibre.
It's a bit more green.
Yeah, and a particular type of fibre that's really good for our gut called resistant starch. There's more foods coming out with added fibre as well, so they can all add up to more fibre over the day.
Don't eat.
Yeah,
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, so we need to focus on filling our plate up with these foods, but also fermented foods as well can play an important role. So fermented foods have the good bacteria already in them. So things like yogurts, fermented vegetables, fermented drinks are becoming really popular as well. They can all be really...
Help build it.
Yeah.
So just remember to eat lots of fibre and stay away from the bad stuff. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's great to be here again.
It's really good to hear from you, and we'll see you next time with some more nutritional facts.
Joining us today in the studio is gynecologist Dr. Peter Wood from the Sydney Adventist Hospital. Thank you, Peter, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
You know, I was thinking, you must get some really interesting questions at dinner parties. You know, everyone hears... Everyone hears about someone else's profession, and they always try to get a bit of free professional advice. So what's the most interesting dinner party question you've gotten?
Well, what people at dinner parties really want to know is gory stories.
While you're eating, of course.
The nitty-gritty of what happened there and what happened here. And having worked for about 10 years in the emergency department and then now working as a gynaecologist, often the two crossed lines, and there were some very interesting stories, which I don't know if I can talk about right
So
now.
you're very popular at dinner parties.
Oh, man. Very popular, and it's quite embarrassing how popular everyone just shuts up. And I go, why do you all go quiet?
Well, hopefully we can get some of that, you know, nitty-gritty from you
Sure.
today.
Okay.
We want to talk about making healthy babies.
Sure.
And this is something that's on lots of mothers' minds. It's not just about making that first baby, but maybe that second or third baby, making sure that it's healthy as well. And we know that there's a lot of, as we talked about in the nutrition segment, there's a lot of what we're eating that has an impact on that. Can you maybe just give us an overview about, you know, the things that we're eating that impact making a healthy baby?
Well, a good diet is always important, and a bad diet would consist of things like Coke and chocolates and stuff, all the stuff that I used to refer to as vitamin CH chocolate, you know. A little bit of chocolate is okay, but, you know, excessive amounts. And so there's this differentiation in the dietary world, like in the nutritional world, about high GI and low GI food. Low GI means that as you eat it, it takes a long time for the sugars to get into your circulation, so you don't put your sugar level up high. That's the sort of stuff that you should be eating when you're pregnant. That usually like fresh vegetables, brown rice, and things that are bad, believe it or not, are things like fruit juice. You know, fruit juice you think is being healthy. Oh, look, it's a glass of orange juice, or it's a glass of apple juice. Apple juice just cracks me up how it's promoted as healthy. When there's like 6 apples worth of sugar in that one glass. It's just hideous.
Wow.
So,
Well,
when
you
you're pregnant,
Well, you mentioned this vitamin CH, but
Yes.
I know that vitamin D is actually quite important
Yes,
for us to be consuming. Why is that?
Well, okay, so vitamin D is intimately related to the absorption of calcium. And in our society, for some reason in Australia, you'd think with all the sun around that we'd be vitamin D rich, but we've been heavily pumped with the don't get sunburnt, slip, slop, slap, which is important to not have, you know, risks of skin cancer, but it's now made us all a bit vitamin D deficient. So it's a tremendously successful campaign from one point of view. So vitamin D is important for the absorption of calcium, and the calcium is important for the woman's health, for her bone density, because the baby will suck all this stuff out of your body, particularly when you're breastfeeding in the last day. So your bones will become less and less, will get demineralised, particularly during breastfeeding. And so it's important to have adequate amounts of calcium in your diet, and often you need vitamin D. So it's a very simple test at the beginning of the pregnancy that your GP or whoever's looking after you can do. And if you're low in vitamin D, then it's a simple tablet to take. And often you can take vitamin D and calcium together. There's lots of preparation for them both together. It's just one a day and it's perfect.
So women are supposed to be taking the folate and the vitamin D. Can they over-supplement? Like, can you do yourself any damage in that?
Look, I think everything in moderation is appropriate. You know, like I think if you took too much, it probably wouldn't be a good idea. But you know what the actual instructions on the bottles, each one has a slightly different, you know, dosage or whatever. But what they're recommending would be okay. Certain things like magnesium, probably can't take too much of that. I mean, because you tend to just pee it out in your kidneys. I said that P word. We weren't going to talk about P, were we? But yes, that's magnesium. Whereas things like folic acid, the standard recommended dose for normal women is 0.5 milligram a day. But if you've got a family history of things like spina bifida, or if you've previously had a baby with spina bifida or any sort of neural tube defects, the neural tube is basically the whole nervous system gets formed in the first few weeks of pregnancy, like often before you've actually worked out your
Yeah, I
pregnancy.
was going to say, for a few of us, that's
Right? And so ideally you should be having the folic acid in your diet, or folic, same thing, in the diet prior to conception, which is why we always say if you're thinking of conceiving, get stuck into the folate. So if you've had a previous history, we recommend 5 milligrams rather than 500 milligrams. Sorry, 5 milligrams rather than 500 micrograms. So it's like 10 times the amount. So you can't really overdose on folate, right? And look, if you speak to the people who work at the institutions where kids who've got spina bifida are, they say, why doesn't everyone just take 5 milligrams? Which makes sense, because if you had one of you taking 0.5 milligram and you end up with a baby with spina bifida, you're going to take 5 milligrams next time. Makes sense to maybe just take it all the time.
You know, we often think about the woman's health. Does the man have any part to play in, his sperm quality or what he's doing with his body and having a healthy baby?
Well, I mean, men just sort of contribute one part of the pregnancy very early on, as you know.
It's kind of important.
It is important. But if a man is, for instance, unwell, like has a really bad case of the flu or is unwell, that will actually affect sperm quality for about 3 to 4 months. So it's not uncommon if they're trying to conceive and he's had the flu ages ago, or so things like that can affect the man.
Does his diet affect?
What?
Because that's a bit of a thing going around at the moment,
Bit
isn't
of
it?
a
That the
thing.
man's got to be
a lot
healthy.
about that.
He's got to wear the right underwear,
Yep.
and he's got to be healthy.
Or take vitamins.
And take vitamins.
So there are some preparations out there intended to improve sperm quality.
Right.
And I'd suggest that if you are healthy and otherwise well, you probably don't need those preparations. If you've had a sperm count and it shows you've got poor motility or you've got poor numbers, then maybe those preparations but there may be other lifestyle factors. So I'm a bit dubious about some of the marketing of these things, because people feel a bit vulnerable when they're trying to conceive and they want the best, and so therefore advertising agencies come in here and plug stuff that maybe the evidence is a bit dubious for. So.
Speaking of wanting the best and being prepared, genetic testing. Now, when do you recommend getting that? I assume you recommend it, but at what stage should you be doing that?
Can you give us quickly your answer to this one?
Okay, right, quickly. Okay, so you can have a test at between 10 and 12 weeks, or any time after 10 weeks, called a non-invasive prenatal test. It's a blood test taken from the mum, and that will only give you an answer as to whether your baby's at risk of Down syndrome or a couple other issues. That test doesn't tell you if your baby's got 4 heads and 6 arms, right? It only tells you if you've got a risk of Down syndrome.
Sure.
There's another test at 12 weeks called the nuchal translucency scan. That is also very important. It shows that not only does it show you risk of Down syndrome as well.
Peter, I want to thank you so much for coming and visiting us today. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, ladies, for being here with us today on the table. If you'd like to have your say and you'd like to keep up with us on our social media accounts, we look forward to seeing you in the next time. Bye for now, and we look forward to being with you in community online.